That might be the very thing that galvanizes some young Lions like these cats, because they got those kinds of personalities with the Boston Celtics. That's number one. Number two, well, if they are not the team, there has to be a reason why, right? Meaning there must be somebody else. Do we know what Toronto's made of? Do we know what Milwaukee's made of? I think Toronto right now, Max, to go to your point to favor you at the beginning of the season, I think the Toronto Raptors right now have the most talent in the Eastern Conference. I really do.
Top to
and
bottom,
obviously Kawhi Leonard is a proven champion, and I get all of that. But in terms of their history come playoff time, there's some huge question marks. And now that LeBron is gone, all the expectations are on them. So that's an immense amount of pressure. You've got Milwaukee. They've got some pressure as well because they've led pretty much from start to finish in terms of having the best record in the NBA, with Budenholzer being in line for Coach of the Year honors and all of this other stuff. When you consider what has transpired, who's to say they're going to respond to the pressure? Pressure busts pipes, as they say. Everybody could sit up there and talk about what this team is and what they're going to be or whatever. Until you sit up there and ordain them the team to beat. You're the team. Everybody's gunning for you. You're supposed to be the best. What you going to do about it? We don't know. Whereas in the case of Boston, you got cats looking at them, talking about what they were last year, completely losing faith in them, counting them out. And all Brad Stevens has to do is sit up there and say, all right, the playoffs are here. This is what we did last year. All of y'all were talking about what you wanted, what you expected, what we did last year. Go out there with Kyrie, but go out there. Get it done. And the odds stacked against you, I wouldn't count Boston out.
But look, I'm not counting them out either. I've been saying the whole time there's a championship team in there somewhere. Boston could mess around, win the whole thing. It's in there somewhere. That's why it is a chemistry issue. That's why it's a chemistry issue. Because even as it looked like they were starting to figure it out, Kyrie comes out, makes those statements publicly. The young guys clearly feel they were thrown under the bus. They are behaving on court like they don't like playing with him. And now his frustration is bubbling over. So I'm not saying it's not in there somewhere. I'm saying they haven't found it. And Kyrie, he wanted a team. He's got it. He tried leading it a certain way. It didn't work out. And the crazy thing is, he's right. The young guys need to accept the fact that they're going to be role players to a degree, that his role is different than some of theirs. That means fewer touches. It doesn't mean they have to play any less enthusiastically or together. He's right about that. But the way he's tried to lead them there has backfired. He's got to figure out a better way, and now it's going to be more difficult because I'm sure they feel like, yo, you just threw us under the bus. So when Durant says it's not a chemistry issue, that's what I disagree with. It is, and Kyrie got to figure it out.
But my problem with you and what you're saying, Max, is why are you putting that on Kyrie? How come we can't put that on Brad Stevens? Let's say Brad Stevens has a conversation because Danny Ainge was seen sitting next to Kyrie in the locker, talking to him or whatever, trying to assuage whatever concerns, whatever the case would be. I'm not privy to what their conversation totally entailed. But let's get to Brad Stevens. Look, I may have made a mistake. I may have made a mistake in how I utilize the rotation. I may have made a mistake not understanding, looking at the basketball side of it, but not looking at the business side of this enough, Terry Rozier, not looking at the business side of this enough, Kyrie Irving, not looking at the kind of collateral damage my decisions may have cost you guys. I was trying to win basketball games. My bad. But now we come to playoff time. We got to get this done. We got to get this together. It might be something as simple as that because that kind of stuff matters. When a boss looks you in your face and he sits up there and says, I own it. I've experienced this. When the boss looks you in your face and said, I might have dropped the ball here. I might have made a mistake. I could have made a different decision. You know what? You good with it because, okay, we on the same page. I get where you're coming from. Let's move forward. You can do that when who's to say it's got to be about Kyrie? How come it can't be about Brad Stevens?
I'm not saying, listen, I disagree with Danny Ainge when he says that Brad Stevens is least to blame. I disagree with that. You want to look at the very top? It's not Danny Ainge. He assembled a great roster. It is Kyrie and Brad Stevens. You can take your pick who's 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B. You know, whatever. What I'm saying is Kyrie's style is to monopolize the ball much more than anyone monopolized it on the team last year in the playoffs. And I'm not even saying that's necessarily bad. Kyrie can get it done like that. So Kyrie's basic point is, guys, yes, I'm changing the style of play. That's who I am. You're going to have to adjust. but the way he's delivered that message has backfired. I think that has much more to do with anything than Brad Stevens giving Hayward too many minutes early in the season.
But the reason I disagree with that, Max, is because if Brad Stevens had done things, and again, I'm not trying to excoriate the man. Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach, and I genuinely like him. What I'm saying to you is that if you had not made those wrong decisions, Kyrie may never have felt compelled to do things the way he did it in terms of speaking out the way that he did. In other words, it wasn't like he just came out open and tapped, Max. This stuff he said in January, there was stuff that was going on for months before he opened his mouth. So how can we look at him and just leave it on him like that?
Well,
and by the way, you keep talking about Kyrie Irving and just dribbling it back. I got to tell you, Max, I haven't seen every game, but I've watched over 75% of Boston's games this year. There's a lot of times Kyrie is on that floor, incredibly unselfish, passing the ball,
I don't think
giving
Kyrie's
up
selfish.
the rock, man. He
I don't
ain't
think
just
Kyrie's
dribbling
selfish.
the ball.
I'm not saying he's selfish. He just dribbles more than the other guys. And
But I'm saying there's times he has not,
the greatest handles ever. Of course he's going to dribble more than the other guys.
That because Jason Tatum, the Jaylen Browns of the world, even Morris to a lesser degree, can dribble the ball, there's a lot of times he's throwing the ball to them, Max, and they're dribbling the ball.
I understand, but he's doing it more than anyone else when he's on the floor, and he should. I'm not saying he's making the wrong decision there. What your and my disagreement comes down to is you seem to think that Hayward sucking the minutes away from Brown and Tatum especially affected team chemistry early on, and that's been the root of the issue. And I think there is some truth to that. But I think the bigger issue is the way the Celtics play changes fundamentally when Kyrie is on the floor because of his handles, because they are so good. And that's the root of the issue.